Witches, tell me about a time when a spell went hilariously wrong. I'll go first. This cute little spell jar was meant to help me relieve my anxiety and stress because at the time I made it, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and stress about life. It contains pink Himalayan rock salt, lavender seeds, poppy seeds, and amethyst. Let's just say it did more than just relieve my anxiety and stress. Ever since I've made this spell jar, so long as I've been in my apartment, I have not gone a single night where I didn't get a restful night's sleep. Or a restful day's sleep. I don't know, my sleep schedule tends to get fucked every great once in a while. Either way, once I choose to lay down and I'm out, I'm out. There's no waking me up for the next 8 hours. So I rewrote it in my Book of Shadows as a jar for a restful night's sleep. Okay, so I am insanely flattered that there are people out there that would be interested in buying a spell jar like this. And I'm going to be completely honest, I have thought about making spell jars to sell publicly to people. The only problem is there's only 2 types of spells that I do that I have perfected in a way. One of them is for protection, and the other is a sleep spell I mentioned. Plus, I have yet to perfect that anti-stress and anxiety spell I meant to make, and I want to make a variety of other types of spell jars that I haven't had to make quite yet, simply because I haven't had a need for them. I test them out on myself before I test them out on anyone else. That way, if the spell doesn't work, the only one that gets hurt is me. So once I have a variety perfected, and once I have enough money to even start a small business myself, I'll let you guys know. I've been watching too many demons because I know a loophole to this. What could be considered another word for heaven? Paradise. My dumbass would send you to paradise. And then send you to hell. Now, if you specified that you wanted to go to the heaven as it is stated in the Christian Bible, I could do that. But remember that you've got to be let through the pearly gates by St. Peter. And if St. Peter just so happens to go, oh no, you made a deal with a demon, you're going to hell. So either way, the demon wins.
Can we all agree to stop giving this woman a platform, please?
Believe you me, I would absolutely love to never see her face again. Here's the problem though, she's currently under investigation by the Roman Catholic Diocese. Now, despite Wesley being an evangelical Christian, the evangelicals and the Catholics reached a mutual agreement that neither were to misrepresent each other's religion in any way, shape, or form. Basically, don't do anything to make one or the other look bad. And guess who has taken sticking their nose where it doesn't belong way too far? She has actively gone after witches, Hindus, the Norse pagan community, and Hecate. And we were not the ones that started that fight. She was the one that came after us. We keep this issue alive because we are constantly feeding more evidence into this investigation. Okay, so for those who don't know, the Christian content creator that has been circling around the WitchTok community constantly goes by the username wesleyfollowsjesus. And she's a youth pastor. Now, I don't think a single one of us would have had a problem with her at all if she would have just kept to her lane and left WitchTok alone. Obviously, we're all probably familiar with her grand introduction into the light of the WitchTok community, and that was with her video rebuking people's spirit guides and deities. As I stated before, she's gone after witches, Hindus, Norse pagans, and now Hecate. I forgot to mention this in a previous video, but she has also said that a common effect of witchcraft is miscarriages. And she also openly mocked someone who tried to unalive themselves. This is why pretty much every witch on WitchTok wants this chick gone. You know what? I've never heard this one before, but yes, there's a difference between the zodiac animals and spirit animals. I don't know the entire history or explanation for the animals that represent both the astrological zodiac signs and the Chinese zodiac signs, but spirit animals are what you personally identify with. Like an animal that just keeps on calling out to you, that your soul feels personally attached to. Yes, it is possible that your spirit animal just so happens to also be one of the zodiac animals. And if you aren't sure what your spirit animal is, you can always look up spirit animals and look up the meanings to them and see which one you personally identify with. I've always had this sort of personal connection with the raven. It shows up a lot in my works back from 2nd grade, but I also have connections with the fox and the deer as well. I think it was about 2 years before Ram came to me. I started my practice when I was 16, and he appeared to me when I was 18, so probably like a year and a half, 2 years. Now, mind you, this was just in terms of knowing and feeling his presence whenever he was around. I didn't actually start seeing him until I was maybe around 21-ish. But that's just my own experience. Some people start seeing them right off the bat, others might never see them. Now, I'm definitely not saying if you practice witchcraft or paganism for like 2 years, you'll start seeing spirits and deities. I am not saying that. How soon you start seeing and working with spirits and deities all depends on your connections with the metaphysical realm. The stronger your ties are, the more you're going to be able to see and interact with them.
To practice their faiths as they decide they would like to do.
You know what, Wesley? For once, we finally agree on something. Children should be allowed to practice their faiths however they so choose. They should be able to decide whichever path they so choose to follow. The problem that I have is probably the majority of the children that you work around most likely had their religious paths dictated to them from birth. You're their youth pastor because mommy and daddy want you to be. Because mommy and daddy tell them, hey, you have to go to church. Hey, you have to believe in this religion. You took a tiptoe in the right direction, but you still got a shit ton of work to do. So you're going to be going back to work again? You know, I kind of have to at this point. I can't live off of like $300 or $400 a month. And are you going to turn tail and run as soon as the going gets tough again? Oh, come on. Even you gotta agree that that was bullshit. Elias, that's not what I mean. It took you quite a bit longer to find a replacement job than it did the past couple of times, didn't it? Oh, I mean, yeah, like a week and a half. And it used to be that when you walked off a job, you could get another in a couple of days. Yeah. So I'll ask you again. Are you going to turn tail and run as soon as the going gets tough again? No, sir. Okay, so I think I am like one step closer to figuring out one of my past lives. This is the Fleischbrücke of Nuremberg, Germany. Roughly translates to Flesh Bridge. And I have been to this location all of but one time in my life. The one time I was there, I had a massive wave of deja vu hit me and I asked my mom, have we been here before? And she told me no. I had a vision of one of my past lives exiting a building and crossing the Fleischbrücke like he had a motherfucking purpose. And in that vision, that bridge looked something like this. In the vision, though, it was the dead of night and there was a full moon. I just found a picture of that exact bridge with a moon in the background, and I had a wave of terror hit me like it was an electric shock. Has anyone ever died around that bridge?
Name something that terrifies you that shouldn't really terrify you.
Performing hexes. Now, I have wards and protection for days. I usually try to look for alternatives rather than just doing a hex. But when the going gets tough and it's needed, I normally take all the precautions I need to lower the risk of a backfire happening onto me. But here's the thing. There is one single truth that keeps looming over my head that I'm constantly aware of every single day. My teeth are in horrendous condition. I have at least 2 very bad teeth on this side of my mouth. And I've got a tooth here that's got a big gaping hole on the side of it. And no, I don't have the money to get them fixed. That is just a world of pain waiting to happen.
Tell your friends about God. You don't want them burning in hell forever.
And what if God doesn't work? Sure, my deities help me do things that can better myself in one form or another, but they're not the true source of my happiness. No offense. No offense. But it's the truth. My religion is not the source of my happiness. Being able to express myself creatively and the fact that doing that has managed to make others happy, that's what makes me happy. Giving tips and advice that other people have found to be extremely helpful, that makes me happy. You saying that substance abuse isn't going to make your friends happy and is only going to make things a lot worse, that makes sense. Saying that religion is the only option that'll make them happy, that doesn't. And why does it always have to come back around to hell? Tell me that. Okay, so here's the thing with meditation. The goal that you're aiming towards with meditation is to relax. Let go of all the worries and stresses currently consuming your life. If you're sitting there anticipating something to happen, you're not relaxed. And if you're someone that is bare bones, no previous spiritual experiences whatsoever, then it's probably going to take you more time to actually start experiencing and seeing things. It took me a solid 6 months of meditation before I started feeling the presence of spirits. And even back then, it was just stuff like feather light touches and very, very distant words or conversations. Back to the main focus of meditation. Relax. Whether that is listening to music or watching a candle flame or even laying in complete silence like I do, your method is your method and it's completely up to you. Well, if that's who you want to work with, then that is perfectly fine. Lilith is not a closed practice. Deity work is not a closed practice. Especially if she comes to you. Like, how are you going to refute that? Like, oh, I can't work with you because I would be appropriating someone's culture. I've never worked with her, but I could imagine she'd just be like, eh? What the fuck are you talking about? No, correction from Lucifer. She'd actually be like, okay, your loss. I've never met or worked with the lady. If anyone that does work with Lilith wants to provide more information in the comments, please feel free to do so. But if you want to work with Lilith, or if you just want to worship Lilith, then I'd say go for it. I'm sorry, but you're speaking to someone who's trying to figure out their past lives as well. I seem to have gotten some information about the area around the Fleischbrücke, which either involves witches sacrificing themselves and a flood, along with illnesses like tuberculosis, because that was kind of common back in the time period I was referring to. The flood and the illnesses sound vaguely familiar. I don't know, maybe it was possible that my previous life survived one but was killed by the other. I don't know, I'm still trying to figure this stuff out too. The stuff involving the witches sacrificing themselves kind of feels like a yikes moment, but doesn't feel familiar to me. And I mean no disrespect by that. I actually get this warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart when I hear that. I'll try to keep you all updated. I'd have to question how old that book is that you're getting that information from. Becoming a witch or a pagan and practicing witchcraft does not automatically condemn you to a violent and painful death. I'm pretty sure that used to be the case back when being a witch or a pagan meant you could possibly be executed. But there are plenty of witches out there who have passed away from old age. Plus, any human could possibly die a violent and painful death, whether or not they practice witchcraft. The show, 1,000 Ways to Die, should be perfect evidence of that. And as I've stated in previous videos, there are unintended consequences from hexes and curses, but it's not any sort of guaranteed result from being a witch or a pagan. My first question is, do you have experience with lucid dreaming? I know plenty of people do it, but lucid dreaming and astral projecting is not a beginner's practice. A lot of things can go wrong, like you getting stuck and not being able to come back. Second thing, lucid dreaming and astral projection are not the only methods of contacting and communicating with deities and spirits. If you have a deck of tarot cards and you're capable of using them, you can communicate that way. You could communicate with them using a pendulum, or you can see if you can communicate with them by using a candle. Go with the method that is easiest for you, because if you jump into something that you're not experienced with whatsoever, bad things can happen. You can start off by simply setting up an altar for Belial. That'd probably be the safest way to start off with, and then go from there.
Tell me what it's like to date you without telling me what it's like to date you.
Ditch this and tell me the craziest thing that a deity did.
January 6th, 2021. I heard Rom's battle cry. We all know what happened that day. It's impossible for you to not know what happened that day. We were watching the insurrection take place on my phone, and let's just say Rom was not pleased with what he saw. I already knew he was upset. We were both upset, but I was not expecting him to do this. He straightens his spine, throws his head back, and lets out this ungodly scream. You know the type of shock that goes down your back to the point where it feels almost painful? I felt that. I think that was the first time in my life where Rom genuinely scared me. Okay, so I know someone already answered this comment, but I'm going to reiterate just so everyone understands. Deities do not discriminate on the basis of race, gender identity, sexual orientation, or anything like that. If they want to work with you, then they're going to work with you. Everything else is irrelevant. Yes, I realize tensions are currently high between the white supremacists and the super straight people, but that same sort of tension does not extend to deities. I ain't never heard of a racist deity, have you? In general, Lucifer loves humanity. The only thing he lacks tolerance for is liars and ignorance. And while that may contradict what Christians believe about Lucifer, it's true. Once again, if you want to work with him and he wants to work with you, mazel tov. Right off the bat, what comes to mind is coffee. He actually had a habit of stealing mugs of coffee from me whenever they were placed on the altar coffee table I used to have. Yeah, this tastes good. This is mine now. Make it strong and sweet like a Starbucks Frappuccino. He'll love that. I find that he's not all that picky about incense, but sandalwood, patchouli, and nag champa will work just fine. I moved inside because it was getting dark. Musk and frankincense also work good as fragrances. He also likes music, so if you want to play music for him, or sing a song, or do a little dancey dance, he'll love that. Dirty jokes? Because of course he'd like something like that. That's all I can really think of at the moment, and next time you see him, tell him I say hi. Actually, no, Rom is not a war god. The technical title that tends to apply to him is what is referred to as a retriever demon. Stories say that he was sent out to retrieve things by the command of a witch. Either to bring the objects back to the witch, or to move objects from one place to another, or to hide them altogether. He also has another title, the Destroyer of Dignities. Particularly the dignities of wealthy people who think that they're just God's gift to earth. Additionally, he hates acts of injustice committed by the rich towards the poor. Y'all can probably see now why the fuck he hates Donald Trump and politicians in general. So yeah, he's not a war deity, but he has waged wars in his own way. First of all, I have to ask, what the fuck did you do to this person? Because off the top of my head, I can't think of any spells that could completely and directly take away a witch's magical abilities. But there are spells that can prevent your spells from affecting them. Tongue binding spells to keep you from talking smack without some negative repercussions. Return to sender spells, which can take spells, hexes, or any negative energies that you're projecting onto this person and send them right back to you. As we all know, cord cutting rituals to cut ties with you. There are plenty of examples of magic like that. But a spell to just yoink your magical abilities? Ain't ever heard of that. Sounds like you gotta make yourself familiar with the block button because these people sound toxic as fuck.